Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Edith Bowman.
And I am Michelle Collins.
And welcome to On the Box, the podcast where we celebrate the latest releases and most loved shows on BritBox and beyond. That whole idea of me kind of saying good afternoon, good morning, good evening is just that thing of like, we never know when people are listening. So we want to make everybody feel welcome.
I don't even know where I am right now, so it made me feel welcome. And it was giving me, I'm a hair under the weather, so if I sound a little different. But also, it was very Truman Show, which remember in the Truman Show how perky he was in it, and I felt safe. I liked it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I love that film. We rewatched it recently, actually. It really stands up. It's great.
Oh, it's
fascinating.
The topics and themes are exactly what we're living through now, funny enough. It's fabulous.
What's made you poorly then?
I assume it's New York City subway germs. That's just what I have to chalk it up to because I've been now in New York for a few weeks. And I have to tell you, it's really interesting how my DNA changes. Like in Spider-Man, when he got bitten by the spider and he then became Spider-Man, I become a much edgier person in a city like this. Like when everybody is on edge and in a rush and moving and there's just, I'm still have my humor and my softness, I like to think, but 3 weeks in this town, I have a cold, but I'm having a good time, certainly.
Do you think, though, that it's a place that inspires you? Like, because it kind of shows you those kind of, the edges of things almost in a way. It's a good sort of jumping off point for writing, for like your stand-up or for any other stuff as well.
Great question. And 1000% yes. Because actually, when I am too relaxed, I don't know if the listeners know that I lived in Amsterdam for 2 years, and it is a gorgeous place, very relaxing, not because of the drugs. I don't dabble in that, but I found myself getting less and less funny because I was losing the literal edge. If you have nothing to complain about, where's the humor coming from? So definitely it helps. But I'd love a break. I'm not going to lie. Counting the seconds down, I'm not going to get into the intricacies of what is making this trip a little bit stressful. But it's a big city. It's gorgeous, beautiful day out today. So very few complaints. How are you, Edith, is the question. What's new about you?
I'm good. I've just had Easter break, obviously, with the kids, which involves wearing different hats. So in a usual week, come 5 p.m. on a Friday, I kind of transform into part-time taxi driver, part-time chef. And that's for the entire weekend of running my two boys around to all their various engagements. But then Easter throws up some really interesting requests, as being trying to navigate, chatting to you and doing some other stuff and my other podcast. But then it's kind of, you get a request that like you go up to go, what do you want for breakfast? You go, can I get some cereal? Also, can you bleach my hair today? And you're like, sorry, what? So then you're like, oh, this is a skill I didn't know I needed to have. Which then involves kind of really winging it, like genuinely winging it, but winging it with bleach is terrifying.
I can't get over, I knew you were a cool mom, and I think everyone listening knows that about you. Edith is you've got edge to you. You've had an amazing life, and I can only imagine how cool you are with your kids. If I asked my mom to bleach my hair when I was 13 years old, I would have been pushed out of a window. It would not have happened. And yet, just right before we began the show, your son came in, and can I compliment you? I'm coming over for balayage. It looked so good. I was expecting a Billy Idol, white bleach situation. He had perfectly sun-kissed highlights. I was like, wait, you have a gift. Did you know that?
Well, let's see when it's dry and he's actually on his way to school or he gets we'll see how the feedback is from the real harsh critics who are his mates.
But he looked, I swear, listener, really looked very natural and very good. So I actually think you're very good at it. I love
guys, I'm available.
I love an at-home haircut. That's one of my favorite.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it because you've just got the most perfect bob as well. And it's so funny as well because on your podcast homepage, you've got long hair. You look so different. I just had to double take.
It's actually sick that I'm glad you're bringing this up on the air. I have not updated my podcast art, and every time I look at it, I'm like, who is that girl I see? I don't know who she is. She's
Who's
like, my
that
boobs are
girl?
huge in it. My hair is flowing along. I'm like, that is not what I look like anymore. I need to like, it's a great note. You know what? Yes, hold me accountable. But I do love an at-home haircut. I have a little essential items. If you do it, you got to have a miniature vacuum cleaner
Oh,
with which to obviously pick up all the shards.
yeah.
And the thing, my blessing and my curse is that I have enough hair for like 19 people. So even if I do make a mistake, like it's almost impossible to see unless it's extremely blunt, which it never is. But this is all very
Mm.
boring. By the way, Edith, I had drinks with a dear friend of yours last week.
Whew.
Our friend Ben, the hairdresser.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Talking of hairdressers, someone who
See,
can do it properly. Oh, my dear, dear Bren.
I love people like you. Some people, this is a great conversation. Forget detectives. Let's talk about friendship. Some people, genuinely, you have two kinds of people in this world, those who are like totally fine with other friends meeting and befriending each other,
Mm.
and those who sometimes it rubs them the wrong way. If I'm going to be 1,000% honest, I think I'm a little bit of both. This is maybe too vulnerable for the podcast, but there are times when obviously, like for example, in a city where you don't live, like in this case, obviously, and Ben is very funny, I'm funny, so it was an immediate kind of connection with us, and the three of us went
Yeah,
out together. But I think it's interesting if like you live in the same city, this is a good question, and you go out three people, right? And then the
yeah.
next week you see that those two people went out without telling you and without asking you to join. How does that make it? Doesn't make me feel good. I'll be very upfront,
There are
you
times where
know?
you're kind of like, oh, where was my call? But then what I find even more interesting on that vein is when you maybe go out with one of the other two people, and all that person wants to find out is how much you've hung out with the person that's not there.
Well, that's a last time hangout in my book. And by the way, as I'm talking about this, I'm actually thinking, I'm like, I don't even think that's happened to me, but I just know myself and I know how sensitive I am. And I feel like I would be like, oh, you guys went to Hillstone without, no, I think it's great. What did you guys eat? And then I would just be like crying at home, feeling left out because I was bullied as a child. But we can move along. Listen.
Well, listen, before we kind of bring you to tears with opening up too much,
Hmm.
this week we're going to do something a little bit different. We've gone back into BritBox, into the archive, and we've watched two episodes of two British classic detective shows. We have watched Taggart, the episode called Forbidden Fruit, and Inspector Morse, the episode titled Deadly Slumber. Michelle, have you ever heard of Inspector Morse?
I've heard of the show and his code, but I have admittedly never watched an episode of Inspector Morse until this episode.
Okay. And you a fan of like detective dramas generally?
Well, it's a great opener. It's a great way to kick this conversation off because, truth be told, I think that the Americans versus English people, we have a very different concept of detective dramas.
Yeah.
I feel like because I watched both Taggart and Inspector Morse, which obviously are both available on BritBox, and they were great in different ways, which we'll get into. But American shows are just much more action based. And also, we love drugs. Like, I feel like we just really involve, there are always like bricks of Coke involved in our detective dramas. I can't picture Inspector Morse cutting up, and like rubbing it on his gums and be like,
Yeah.
it's the good stuff. I can't picture that happening. Whereas here, that is something that I feel like, because we have NYPD Blue was a huge show. Did that ever make it across the
Yeah.
pond? That was
Yeah.
a great show.
Yeah, great show. I also think there's almost like three subcategories in a way. So you've got the actual police detective show. Then you've got the kind of the private investigator show. Then you've got the random people who are really good at solving crime shows. So you've got these kind of like almost like three subgenres of the kind of detective classics. And I loved the American shows for me when I was growing up, particularly, they were so sexy and like aspirational. And
Yes.
like everybody loved Magnum PI, with his
Mm.
fancy Hawaiian shirts and his helicopter and his cigars and all that. And it was just like more colorful and flamboyant. And even like, do you remember the show Heart to Heart with Robert Wagner and forgotten the female who was in it. They were these married couple, and Max was their chauffeur. They had a little furry dog, and they would just solve these crimes. It was the most random kind of show, but I absolutely loved it.
Well, we have a very a creative concept because I agree with you. And actually, you just reminded me of another show that was on when I was very, very young, but my parents loved was Moonlighting, which was
Yes.
with Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd. No, you were talking sexy detectives, and I was like,
I could sing you the theme tune in a minute if you
I'm
wanted, but I
begging you
won't.
to. Honestly, to me, there's no sexier duo than Bruce and Sybil. I mean, I'm looking at the cover art for it. She's in a bustier. I'm like, what police precinct allows a detective in a leather jacket looking, I mean, good old Bruce Willis. For me,
Oh,
one of the top ever. And she's drop dead stunning. I mean, I do miss those times. We have a very different concept because here in this country, we like to entertain via violence and sex. There's not a lot of talking going on. We're very simple people, the Americans. I love us, proud to be one, but you get where I'm coming from. Like we need we need our like senses massaged, I would say.
well, I feel like the kind of British side of things, they really focus on the niche almost and the location type things as well.
Yes.
Whereas they are based in the most random places. Like there's a show called Bergerac here, which I don't know, you're probably never aware of, but
No.
it was based on the island of Jersey and the Channel Islands. And then you've just got these like Mary Hill where Taggart's, it's not even, not, you say Mary Hill, where's that? It's like a slight outskirt of Glasgow. It's like, why not say Glasgow? It's these kind of niche little kind of Oxford and Cambridge and all these random places where you have Broadchurch. It's kind of like, we're almost like celebrating the kind of like tourism element of the UK by having these places be the kind of focal point and locations for these shows. It's hilarious.
That's the whole thing. And I actually just feel like it is a reflection sort of our cultures in general because whenever, and again, it actually kind of plays into my energy now being in New York, big city, lots of energy, so much going on, so many sensory things to take in. Whereas when I'm in London, favorite city in the world, in case any of your immigration people are listening, um, I mean, yes, there's a lot of tense and busy things in London, but you've got green spaces. There are trees. There are crows. You can watch foxes. It's just a little bit more understated, I would say, overall. And your detective dramas reflect that as well in a beautiful way. But also, let me ask you a question because we had it here growing up, Cops. Did you have like a version of Cops in your country?
I mean, we had, do you remember the artist, the pop artist called LaRue?
Yes, yes, of course.
Her mum was in a show called The Bill. So that was our version of Cops, was The Bill.
But Cops was unscripted and it was a reality
No.
show. Oh my God. Cops was bad boys, what you
What you
gonna
gonna
do?
do?
Cops, I mean, unscripted, it was a reality show where they just had camera guys following actual police officers around to, sex workers and just people, drunks in their cars. And that is considered American entertainment. And thank God this country has so many criminals. They were never at a loss for content on Cops. There was always something going down in, East
Yeah.
Brunswick that they could, I don't know why that came to mind, but that they could like film and have great stuff. So I think it's just culturally like with everything, like with our comedy, our dramas, we are just bigger in every sense. And that
Yeah.
bleeds into our detective dramas too.
I guess the similarity that they have though is the idea that in these places, like there are a lot of crimes going on. Like the idea that Mary Hill had and also like with Morse as well. And the unique thing about Morse was that it was a 2 hour show. Every episode was 2 hours. There was 33 2 hour episodes of that show. But the idea that, hold on, this was based in, where was it, Cambridge or Oxford? I can't remember which one. But the idea that there was that many murders happening in Cambridge is like, who wants to live there now?
Yeah, that's so funny. And I got to say that we were asked to watch Taggart, which I had, to be honest with you, I had never heard of Taggart before. That was
Okay,
not a name that ever made
that's
its way
okay.
over here. What a show.
Shame.
And the episode that they had us watch. I was gonna ask you, did I understand what happened right at the end? And I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but it was called Forbidden Fruit.
Hmm.
And it was about a woman and her husband who I guess he was infertile.
Hmm.
And if that's the correct terminology, what do you call it with, let
Yeah.
me say pause for a minute. Is that for a
No.
man as well? It's infertile. Okay.
Yeah.
Because for some reason that sounds wrong. I don't know why. I feel like infertile is like egg based for some reason, but maybe I'm wrong. He's infertile. They can't have children. And she goes to get artificially inseminated, which the episode, what was it from? Like the early 90s or something? I have to see when they aired this one.
94, I think it was.
Oh my God. Well, let me tell you, listener, if you are looking to really have a throwback into what made 90s TV so good, please watch season 7, episode 1 of Taggart and then the rest of the season. From the music cues to the pauses, it almost felt like a telenovela. Like there was something about this episode that really made me long for my teenage years again to watch shows like this again.
It's really interesting looking back on it, in terms of you think about like IVF and where that was back then and how a show like this brings that into the main theme of a show. It's so interesting as well. I kind of sort of looking back on something that's that old, it's like 20 years old, you're like, wow. It's kind of like, it's great that Scottish, because there was nothing like this coming out of Scotland before it. It was crazy. But it's so interesting you mentioned the music because it's got, I don't know if you recognize not recognize, but it's got this kind of like female soft rock theme tune.
Yes, of course. It was incredible.
Which has got a bit of the Barbara Dixons about it, who actually, knowing you're a musical fan, Barbara Dixon, who appeared in Chess with Elaine Page, featured as a guest star on an episode of Taggart.
No kidding. Well, Elaine Page is my sun, my moon, my stars. I love that Elaine Page. Edith, she's about your height. I'm sure you've met her many times. Probably.
Dame Elaine Page. Never met her.
No kidding.
No.
That surprises me. Can I brag here?
Please.
For exactly 1 year, we had the same manager. Anyway, I know your English listeners are shocked to hear that I'm connected so well. And yet, there we are. And I saw her in Sunset Boulevard when I was a little kid. And my mom and I waited by the stage door to meet little tiny Elaine Page. And my mom and I are quite tall. And my mother said, Elaine, we flew all the way from Miami to see you. And she went, you must be mad. And we always quote that. You must be mad. She was really lovely and one of the greatest singers ever.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that you love Elaine Page so much.
Oh my gosh. One of the greatest.
But back to Taggart. Someone who's, I guess, the antithesis of Elaine Page is Mark McManus, the actor who played Jim Taggart. And that was it. That in terms of like how there being like taglines for things, it's like I had this thing. I mean, up until recently, people still quote it, like where they go when you say the word murder, because the way that he had this phrase that he used, "Nobody move, there's been a murder," and so everybody, like whenever you say the word murder and has seen Taggart, they'll like 8 times out of 10 go, "Nobody move, there's been a murder," and it's it makes me proud to be Scottish.
Yes, it reminds me of the great Ellen Cumming on Traitors. That's immediately where my mind goes. There's been a murder, the way he says it. So funny.
But so grumpy. I don't think I've ever seen anybody who looks so miserable on telly all the time than Jim Taggart.
I'll admit, I was grateful to the casting directors, and this is a very, what's the word I'm looking for, shallow thing I'm about to say, because Taggart himself, and I'm actually seeing he died in 1994. So did they replace Taggart after he passed away?
Well, it was really, they were mid-shoot when he passed away. And so they kind of, if I remember rightly, they finished, I think it might have been the last episode or something they were filming. And so they kind of put they wrote it in the script that he was away at something or he was at something. Then the next season started with his funeral. And so they then brought someone else in to be the kind of the, not replace Taggart as another Taggart, but a new character. It just wasn't the same because there was just something really unique about Mark's portrayal of that, and this relationship with his wife as well, and how there was always a kind of domestic subplot to every episode, and that kind of had a weird sort of gentle connection to the investigation that was going on, which I loved because it insinuated that his wife was really clever and really kind of knew everything and was smart as hell, even though she was living with this disability. So I loved that kind of side to it. It was almost the softer side that we saw to that character throughout it as well, which I thought was a really clever thing to kind of weave through every episode.
I can't believe that he died and they pretended like, Taggart? No, he's still in Aruba. Another couple weeks, he'll be back. Like, I'm in shock. I can't get over it. They couldn't figure out they're like, oh no, I think he nipped off to the store, but he should be back and he's second now. Meanwhile,
Ibrox to watch the Rangers play. I went totally Scottish there.
Well, in the Taggart episode, the thing that really blew my mind was the twist at the end, to the point where I was actually going, I don't want to spoil it necessarily, although I feel like by spoiling it, people will go watch it because it's
Go for it.
shocking. Okay, so I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but am I crazy to say that this episode had kind of like a Chinatown incest twist at the end of it?
Maybe.
Oh no. The whole hour I'm watching this episode, it's called Forbidden Fruit. And I'm
Hmm.
like, what's forbidden? I'm waiting for the thing that was forbidden. And I mean, it was basically this woman. I'll spoil it. Why not? I love spoiling stuff. It's my favorite thing to do. Ask me anything, I'll do it. She was impregnated at a sperm bank. It comes out that the guy running the sperm bank actually was giving all of his sperm to the women, which is a true thing that has happened. And there was a man, I
Hmm.
know at least one, who has gone to jail for doing that. But one of the points made in the show, which is a real issue, is that in a small town where 90 people are brother, half sister, you're running into children with visible horns. Okay. So you don't need that happening at any point. But then it turns out at the end that this guy, the guy running the lab, was this woman's father. I mean, you guys are sick for real. I was like, and this is on a television show. It's one thing in a film, fine. But was this like par for the course in the UK to have plot lines like this? I was shocked.
But that's what I mean in terms of the idea of like go for it. It's so interesting you saying about that idea of the difference between TV and film. It's like TV now, like there's no area or space that isn't kind of untouched. But TV back then, it was much safer. It was much more kind of glossy or kind of a bit more sort of safer basically. But the idea that a show like this was going there is brilliant, and I love that. I love the fact that it was a Scottish show as well that was doing it. I love that you loved Taggart.
I did.
Now I'm going to test you then, if that's all right, if you don't mind, because we've played Brittionary a couple of times in the series.
Yes.
I've taken it one step further, kind of off the back of us knowing that we're talking about Taggart today. How do you fancy a new game that I like to call Scotctionary?
It just depends on how much you like to call it that. If you really
Okay,
like
well,
to call it that, then yes, I would love to play it.
well, since we've just been talking about the whole kind of incest thing, this might be a good place to start off. Bairn. What does that mean? What is a bairn?
I'm going to tell you now that I'm going to get every single one wrong because I'm hearing the word burn.
Bairn. Oh,
Bairn.
look
Oh,
at
is
that
it
wee
Baron?
bairn.
Is
it
it
what?
Baron? Baron?
No, it's a child or a baby. Oh, look at
In
that
my,
wee
I'm
bairn.
never, I'm not going to get a single one of these right. Okay, keep going, keep
Yes,
going.
you are. You
No,
are.
I'm not.
What is a Glasgow kiss?
A Glasgow kiss, is that when a rat runs over your toe? If you're in an open-toed sandal and just
Close.
plants a little one? Go on.
It's a headbutt.
Oh, that's hilarious, actually. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Or a Glasgow kiss. What
You're
about
quite
if
a
you were
violent people. What did you know? The Scots, no? Yes or no?
oh, only at football matches?
Yeah, that's right.
What is if you have a good haver? Haver to
Is that like
haver.
is that like a blowout? Like a beautiful curly beachy waved blowout?
Should be. You're making so many better
Okay, what is it?
better meanings behind these words than the actuality of a haver is to babble.
Oh
To
God,
like,
I
yeah.
should know that one. It's like my whole career basically based on that word. Okay,
Okay.
havering.
Yeah. What about this is one of my favorite words, bahookie.
Okay, can I give a couple guesses for this one?
Yeah.
Say it again, Edith.
Bahookie.
Are you allowed to spell it or no? No.
BAHOOKIE.
Okay. Either is it
Yeah.
is it like okay, I'm going to say a couple. Is it like a quick romp or is it taking time maybe off of work, like skipping to go to a party or something? It seems like a fun word to
Skiving.
me.
That's skiving. Bahookie's your bum.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
No idea. Bahookie.
Bahookie.
I'll do a bit of digging whilst I give you the next one.
Okay.
Only a couple more, I promise.
No. Just
do-
hot off the heels of Bahookie when you said you were going to do some digging. I thought, well, wait till we're done with the show, girl, before you start digging back there. But anyway,
Yeah,
go on.
exactly. Do you know what Cullen skink is?
Okay, now my last name is Collins. Are you saying Cull and Skink?
Cullen, as in Cullen, and then
wow.
second word is skink.
Cullen skink.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, obviously I've never heard of it, but let me just guess what it is. Cullen skink. It sounds like something to do at a bar and possibly like to do shots or to get like drunk off your head.
Again, if only it was, Michelle.
What is
It's
it?
actually a soup. Cullen skink is a soup. It's a
I'm not
fish
far
soup.
off. Liquid based guess. Okay, go on.
And then the
Wh-
last one,
Wait, what kind of soup is it? It's a little vague. I need to know what's
fish.
in it. Oh, fish
Fish.
soup. Oh, it's not
Yeah,
funny.
fish soup.
Okay.
Tablet. Is tablet a paving slab, a sweet treat, or Scottish slang for the contraceptive pill?
I'm laughing. It's got to be a sweet treat, isn't it? Yes,
Yeah.
fine. Well, I needed multiple choice. Hello. Okay.
Okay,
What kind of
noted.
sweet treat is it?
It's basically it's like sugar with condensed milk that is boiled like
Mm.
to like 1,000,000 degrees and then
Hmm.
poured into a tin and it solidifies. Then you cut it up into like chunks and you just it's basically just sugar.
And this is why. And how is dentistry going in Scotland these days? Because that just sounds like it'll rip your teeth out of the socket.
Just as well as heart disease, to be honest. Yeah.
I love your country so much. I got to get that visa, girl. We got to work on this. Okay, go on.
That's it, I'm afraid. That brings us to the end of this week's probably one time only Scotctionary.
See, you know what's funny about that? This was the first time we've done this where I actually felt challenged because I fancy myself so educated when it comes to UK slang, but
Hmm.
I have to admit a blind spot with the Scottish slang.
I like it. I also preferred all your definitions of the words as well. I think we need to change those in the Scottish dictionary. Morse for me is almost like it's got so many kind of Britishnesses about it that makes it kind of quite kind of going back to that thing we were saying about safe in a way.
100%. This show again was for me an equivalent of like having a nice warm cup of tea and learning about
Afternoon tea.
a
It's
local
afternoon
murder.
tea.
Yes. It was almost a soothing murder, if that makes any sense. I thought, oh, someone got
Yeah.
murdered. How lovely. Let's watch Inspector Morse solve the case. Everybody was a little bit too relaxed about it. His energy to me is a little bit, I felt a bit like his nose was stuck in the air a little bit.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and it was really I think it was really groundbreaking on a number of levels, and the idea that you could have a regular detective show that was 2 hour long episodes. So it's kind of that in itself was sort of totally different, and the fact that there was so many of them over what the space of like 13, 14 years is like it is a long standing successful show.
As an American, Inspector Morse, and I'm sure there are people, I'll put it this way, if you are someone who needs to unwind, beeline to Inspector Morse on BritBox because it was so quiet. I mean,
Yeah.
there would never be a scenario in American TV where a detective would be interviewing the widow or widower, I guess, of a dead man, and she would just be sitting a day later quiet in her living room being like, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I guess he was just tired. Like everybody was
Yeah.
so relaxed. No one cried, no one screamed. When they accused finally the very hot murderer, that's what I was going to say earlier is these detectives were old as dirt, but then
Yeah.
all the killers were hot. And I thought, I like this choice. Like they're bringing in all the young out of work actors were eating when Taggart and Inspector Morse were on the air, and we love that. But yeah, I just very calming.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it, that there was so many male detectives as well. Like I remember the Prime Suspect when Helen Mirren kind of came in, and it was such a revelation that there was suddenly a female in this kind of lead, detective role. And I remember like Cagney and Lacey was one that I loved from the States. So much so that I had this weird experience with an ex-boyfriend who was obsessed with the show that kind of almost like slightly projected like Mary Beth onto me.
Huh.
And I was like, I'm out of here, mate. This is not, I didn't sign up for cosplay. So yeah, but I loved that show growing up.
What did he do? I need to know more. I'm sorry. You can't just say that and not elaborate.
I
Was it
mean,
like
there was
costumes?
no, I mean, there wasn't costumes. There was just like sort of like just gentle sort of things. But it would, whenever I went like to stay with him, it would always be on. Like Cagney and Lace would always be on. It would just always come up in conversation. I can't remember the name of Mary Beth's husband, but he started to like almost like look a bit like him in a younger version of him
Huh.
with a tash. And it was just like, I think he might have even bought me a trench coat as a present at one point.
Oh
I was
my.
like, this is getting a little weird.
I
I'm
would have
like,
liked it. You know
bye
what?
bye. You would have?
Send him my way. Yes. I would be so good at playing a cosplay, like sexy detective. I was born for that. I look great in a coat. I'm always snooping. I love to snoop. I want to know everything. Fill me in. And I could do like sexy detective. Like I'll put a fishnet on. You know me. I'm a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, that sounds kind of ideal. Love
Who's,
mustaches. Hmm.
here's the question then. Who is the sexiest detective?
What if I was like Sipowicz? If anyone remembers NYPD Blue, remember when they showed him naked? NYPD Blue, they were like, "We're going to show ass," and that I know this is a classy podcast, so forgive me, but it was David Caruso, and he was like very hot in his day, and so he was on, and then one episode it was just naked Sipowicz, and I think America was like, no one asked for this, we don't want to see him, but yes, Mark Paul Gosselaar from Saved by the Bell eventually went on NYPD Blue. And funny enough, as Zach on Saved by the Bell, you know, he was a
Yeah.
teenager in my time, did nothing for me. On
Yeah.
NYPD Blue, girl, this man, Google it. He was so hot on that show. He's he's gorgeous. He was great. He was serving something. And I'm trying to think, I'm going through a list here. Like who does it for you in that world?
I mean,
Don't say Columbo.
no, I'm not gonna
Don't say
Chloe.
Columbo, girl. No, go on.
I mean, it was probably Magnum. Do you know what I mean? Like back in the day, sort
Yeah.
of thing. It was just that whole kind of, yeah. And
Luther is hot.
well, this
Idris
is another
Elba.
thing about a kind of the more contemporary sort of detective shows as well. Are they as good? Is the kind of, I don't know, the world of today more interesting in that world than it was when you kind of go back to the 80s and the 90s? Is it better? Is it different? Is it worse? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I cannot picture a reality in which someone like Inspector Morse in today's day and age, although I take that back. Because, you know, funny enough, in that episode, Brian Cox from our beloved Succession
Yeah,
was in it. And
yeah.
let me just say something about Brian Cox. One of the best actors of our time, has always looked 500 years old. I'm like, wait, I had to look up the year of Inspector Morse. I'm like, how is he 80 in this? He's always just looked like current day Brian
Yeah,
Cox. Amazing.
forever. I've got mine. I've got mine. There's a
Oh,
French detective show
mm.
called Lupin,
Oh
and
yeah.
the guy who's in that, Omar Sy. Oh, there we go. That's mine.
Wait, I'm looking him up. Oh my God, yes. No, he is really hot, Omar.
Yeah,
This was a big
the
show.
show's great.
Yeah. I just looked up sexiest detectives
Okay, what we
and
got?
just to like jog the memory a little bit. And Don Johnson and
Oh, Miami
in Miami
Vice
Vice.
and
Hello.
Crockett and Tubbs,
Crockett and Tubbs, both of them.
and that's your hood as well.
That's my hood. That's where I grew up in Miami. Yes, my mother had that turquoise blazer. Wore it to my brother's bar mitzvah. I'm not joking. Not sure why you're laughing. It's all true. No, I swear to God. Yes,
Yeah, I had a
Don
massive
Johnson. Oh,
massive crush on Don Johnson from Miami Vice.
Christopher Maloney in SVU, Detective Stabler. Now, funny enough, I have never seen a full episode of SVU in my life. However, I am a woman of the internet. And I know this man. I know his body. I know his look. I would say arguably the hottest male TV detective of all time. I'll say it.
He's got no neck.
I like that. You like neck? Okay, freak. He's got, yeah, but have you seen I mean, this is like now two middle-aged women just like horning out over detectives. But girl, this man's body, you don't think he has a neck? I see a neck.
Maybe I'm looking at a bold picture of him,
Yeah, I love
uh,
that.
and
He's looking in some of them, he's looking a little leather bar, which again, not a problem for me, but it's a little
so
leathery,
what's the
but
show
he's hot.
called? I need to add that to my to watch.
SVU,
SVU.
Law and Order SVU, did that not make it over to England? I'm in shock. Mariska Hargitay?
I don't think so.
Wow, this actually has, you know what? I love our podcast because this has now blown my mind wide open. It's
Okay.
one of the most popular, longest running American crime television shows ever.
Law and Order, but it feels like that Law and Order SVU. It's like I don't know that version of it. Law and
It's the
Order is like
sex
start.
crimes. It's about sex
Oh,
pests. Mm-hmm.
okay. There we
Yep.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's another one to add to the list
So
then.
yeah, yeah. If you're bored on a rainy day and you're interested in watching a fictionalized drama about sex pests, beeline to SVU. Again, have never seen an episode.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Like, never seen an episode. I also think those shows can sometimes be really good training grounds for people. Like you talk about Brian Cox appearing in the
Oh
Taggart
yeah.
episode. Even like behind the scenes and stuff. I think the episode of Morse that we watched was written by Danny Boyle. And
Mm.
then he worked on it. John Madden worked on Morse, who made Shakespeare in Love, Anthony Minghella.
My
So it's
favorite
like
director
so
ever.
it's interesting, isn't it? Like
Wow.
that world is almost like a training ground for them in a way.
Well, that really excited me. I have to find Anthony Minghella's episode. One of the greatest visionaries ever, I believe.
Yeah, I think he
And
wrote 3 episodes.
I have to admit, I did a little research on this man because, again, I had never watched the series. It wasn't available here. And I find certain parts of his personal life very interesting.
Yeah,
He was a lover of opera,
yeah.
from what I'm reading. He and loved clues, which I would hope. He was a big, one would hope he was a fan of clues as a detective. He was a big drinker, which it's an interesting thing because I always assume that most English people love to drink. It's sort of part woven into your very fabric.
Yeah.
So my question is, did he drink more than the usual English person for it to actually be a point of not contention, but like something that people noticed on the show that he turned to booze?
It's really weird because it came and went. It wasn't like a kind of continual thing. Like there were moments where there were times in episodes where it wasn't even, not that I've seen every episode, but what
Mm.
from what I can remember, there were where it wasn't really a thing, and then it sort of was a thing. And so it's interesting because I think that was also how he, because I think he died in the last episode. That was the, kind of killing the character off sort of thing as
Oh
well. And
no.
it was down to that. But weirdly in the books, it partly was down to like a diabetes thing sort of thing as well. So it's like, but yeah, it's I don't think when I think of Morse, I don't think of him being like a big drinker.
Okay.
Um, so it was like yes, it's an odd kind of thematic thing, I think.
And I mean, am I making this up? It sounds to me like he had a lot of possibly generational trauma, but that he was just like a cranky, lonely man.
Yeah, and I think that that's the running thing around a lot of detectives, isn't it? It's like even though like even Taggart with his wife and stuff with her disability, he's still kind of lonely because she's not, the kind of I guess the woman that he married and that kind of thing as well. There's an element of kind of loneliness there for sure. But it's really weird because there's always a kind of possible romantic thing that comes up in quite a few episodes, I think, with Morrison. But there's something about the character that's almost kind of forbidden to sort of go there in a way. Do you know what I mean?
But the British are like that. I feel like they don't often chat about personal things. They're a bit
Yeah.
there are a lot of walls up, I think, socially in the UK where people don't delve too deep. They're not digging in the bahookie for info. They're letting it. Thank you.
Yeah.
They
There's
meant
there's there's some
chronologically that
yeah.
joke may not work depending on where this part of the show is put in. But anyway, yeah, I feel like that the walls.
There's a filter there, isn't there?
Yeah,
It's only so much they're going to give away, sort of thing as well.
there's a mask. They don't talk
Yes.
a lot about super personal things. They don't bring up money. There are things that I think here in the US we are accustomed, even let's say on like hanging out with someone new or first date or getting to know someone, that we ask fairly direct questions that would be considered very gauche to do in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on.
Mm.
It's interesting the females that they brought into the show as well as kind of different characters, not necessarily as kind of potential love interests for him, but like Liz Hurley was in an episode, Rachel Weisz was in an episode, and Johnny Lee Miller, the Emperor from Star Wars, that excited me a lot. Ian McDiarmid,
Johnny Lee Miller was one of my first crushes. Such a close
back to
second
Train
to you
Spotting.
in. Oh my God. But it was that movie, even Begbie, girl. I mean, I had some problems growing up. I was just like really that whole
Yeah,
cast
we all loved
loved.
a bit. Oh, everybody knows a Begbie. Everybody knows a Begbie.
I Where is my Begbie? That's the question. Let me change my sheets while we're at it. But yes, come
Well,
on.
Begbie is about to star in the new series of Line of Duty, which is very exciting. Not as Begbie, obviously, but Robert Carlyle, who we absolutely love.
Oh, love.
Yeah, love him so much.
Oh, Full Monty, please. I mean, these are my growing up. These are my Anglophilic. That sounds like so disgusting. Anglophilic. Delete that. Please take that out.
Please don't take it out.
It's horrible. Oh my god. But those are the building blocks of my Anglophilia. Maybe is a better way to structure that. I don't know. Anglophilic. It's just that's a
amazing.
word.
That's a great word. Get that in the dictionary
Yes.
immediately.
Well, Edith, I have to say this has been such an educational episode for me, and I want to say thank you, and everyone say thanks to Edith because I am smarter now. I enter this world now of BritBox and all these detective shows hungry for more, and it's really thanks to you, so I appreciate it.
Hey, my absolute pleasure. I'll get that trench coat sent over to you immediately.
Girl, I'll split that back. That sounded so bad, but it's going to be small on me is what I meant. I'll split that back wide open, girl. I will fully Hulk out on that trench coat and you'll regret sending it, but please do.
I hope you guys have enjoyed Michelle and I just kind of waxing lyrical about detective shows and in particular Taggart and Morse. And if you haven't already watched either of them, then you should definitely dive in and make up your own minds on BritBox, both available, Taggart and Morse.
God, you're good. I could listen to you all day. And really, to everyone who listened, thank you. And seriously, go if you want just a whiff of the 90s and you want to just feel safe like you did when you were a younger version of yourself. Highly recommend Taggart and Inspector Morse. And we'll be back next week. We're going to have more insider info from more of your favorite British shows. Edith, as always, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Feelings mutual. See you next time. You've been listening to On the Box, hosted by Edith Bowman and Michelle Collins. Theme music was by Dario Forzato and Canio Claudio Tristano, courtesy of 411 Music. The mix engineer was Arlie Adlington. The production coordinator was Caroline Barlow. The production manager was Mabel Finnegan-Wright. The production executive was Ian Hayden. The executive producers for BritBox are Alana McGahey and Diane Robina. The executive producer for BBC Studios is Pete Strauss. The producer was Rajiv Karia. On the Box is a BBC Studios production for BritBox.